Hello everyone! Welcome to episode 3 of the Rocket League Replays Workshop. This time we're covering Cloud9 versus G2. So this week it's two of the real heavy hitters in NA. Last week we covered PSG versus Gale Force, which was two of the EU heavy hitters. Especially going into the season, PSG has kind of been middling this season in terms of results. But I mean, C9 and G2 are completely living up to expectations. It's everything people expected. They've been super strong. And this series did not disappoint. This was a slugfest of a series. If you haven't watched it yet, especially if you're watching this in the VOD, you might want to just go and watch it first, because it was a very entertaining, scrappy series of Rocket League, especially towards the end. And it went the distance. I'll talk a little bit about the teams. I'm sure most people who follow Rocket League, even the RLCS, even a little bit, know these two teams. They're definitely two of the fan favorites. But back in Season 3, I'd say they both kind of underperformed. Cloud9, they were Iris at the time, and they didn't have Gimmick yet. They had Lachinio. And they were looking very strong and then didn't even qualify for RLCS. So they definitely underperformed. And then G2 is looking like one of the best teams, and they didn't even make it to LAN after a pretty weak regional playoff showing. And that was definitely a surprise to most people. But Season 4, they turned it up. They both did really well. They've done great in the off seasons. They've been both absolutely world-class since then. And they've showed no signs of stopping that. Now this series, when I was preparing for this show, I found so many things that I wanted to highlight, and so I think it's going to be a little less cohesive than some of the other ones, where I'm not going to just be focusing on like one theme throughout the whole series. There will be a couple things I point out like multiple times, but there were so many things that I was like, well, this is cool. It's cool what they did there. I want to show this. So I think a lot of it's going to be looking more at the micro scale this time, more than the macro. Where it's like, okay, in this play they did this, which got them this, and then in this play they did this other thing. So there will be some recurring themes, but I think more than average, this will be focused on the micro. A couple things I do want to talk about, especially individually. I haven't covered as much individually in the other series, more how the teams work and then individual plays they made. But I do want to talk a bit about individual playstyles of a couple of the players here, especially Kronovi and Torment. So Kronovi, I'm just going to preface this early. I'll talk a little bit more about it as we hit the things I want to talk about. But Kronovi is a player who he's always been very, very reliant on reading his opponents, figuring out what they're going to do, and making risky plays because he has a read on them. Early on, this resulted in a lot of pre-jumping. He would pre-jump to try and dunk a lot. People have gotten used to this, so he can't really do this so much anymore. But there's still a lot of... he does a lot of cuts in rotation when people aren't expecting it, because he knows they're not expecting it. And I think Crow's a very smart player. And all these weird things he does, because he has a very different play style from a lot of players still. A lot of this stuff, there's always very well-reasoned thought processes behind it, but it does sometimes, obviously not everything always goes according to plan. So sometimes it does hurt them and sometimes it helps them. It's kind of a double-edged sword. And the reason I want to talk about Torment is because I think he's one of the most defined third men in a third man role, as you'll find in modern Rocket League, where he pushes up and stuff, but he's usually the third one coming into the play. Maybe he'll set them up, or he'll set up off of rotation and transition. But usually if there's anyone who's the last man back, it's him. And I think he does a phenomenal job of it. If there's anyone who feels like they're playing a third man role on their team and you're looking for someone's play style to look at and learn from, Torment's your guy for that. He does a lot of stuff very intelligently. He knows how to challenge, when to buy time for his teammates. And so I'm going to talk a bit about that, but a lot of it will be the micro, like I said. there's a lot of things I want to talk about, so it might take a decent bit of time. I'm just going to hop into it right here. So yeah, let's get into the game. So right off the bat here, we're going to see Kronovi make a nice play here. He's going to go in for the demo after kind of popping it up. This is something we saw EG do a lot to great success in week 1. So he gets the demo on Gimmick. But C9, luckily they're kind of bailed out. This normally would create a lot of space, but Torment does a nice job creating a hit he can follow. And it's not a hit he can win to. He actually loses to Rizzo here. Sorry. But when he follows it, Rizzo's forced to hit it hard. Since Torment's able to follow the hit, it forces Rizzo to not be able to control it, and Squishy's able to clean up. We see with how the demo went, suppose Torment wasn't able to follow this ball. With this demo, let's bring this out here. So we see over here this demo happens, and so imagine Torment couldn't follow this ball. He just kind of drives around, tries to rotate back. Then Squishy's all the way here in back post, so Rizzo would have all this space in the field to work with. He could take his time and then pass it, back out to a teammate. But because Torment was able to contest him, he was not able to take his time. And that stuff goes a long way, and it's quite important. Sorry for that little tone there. So there's a little bit of a back and forth here in this next minute or so. Both teams, they're trying to create passing plays, but they're read out pretty well by the other teams, and neither team makes too big of a mistake. Gimmick gets another touch, but Rizzo doesn't commit too hard to it, so he's not taken out of the play. Squishy tries to pass, but Rizzo's able to read it. We're going to see a bit of this. Both teams do a pretty good job of reading passes in general throughout the series. And that is something that is very important with these teams' play styles. They're both very good at creating space for each other, so it's important that the other team recognizes that and is able to fill the space. Now here we do see a goal come out pretty early, and Rizzo doesn't really respect Torment's shot here off the ground. He kind of just jumps for the ball, but I do want to point out this is actually a pretty technical shot by Torment. So the way the ball comes up here, normally the straightforward hit here is just to drive up to the ball and flip sideways off the wall and just get a strong hit. But that would put Torment's actually moving too fast, so he wouldn't be able to follow the ball if he did that. What he does is actually much smarter. So he does a back diagonal flip, which it gets a very similar hit, except the ball actually pops out a little bit less, and it slows down Torment's car because he flips backwards, which means he's now in a good position to boost towards the ball. And now he's able to get a good hit. If he had just done the straightforward side flip, there's no way he's able to score that. So, pretty technical play there from Torment, making the right flip to allow him to follow the ball. Should Rizzo have read that he was doing that? Maybe, but it's a pretty strong play. And on a team where Squishy, especially, is always lauded for his mechanics, Torment does things pretty well too. He doesn't have the same flashy plays as Squishy, but he's a very sound player. He does stuff like that. Sorry. Do you wanna... So... right here, there's some miscommunication by Cloud9, so it looks like this play is a little broken. It's like, they're not really getting to the balls properly. But I think individually, both of these are pretty smart plays. We'll see Squishy here. The ball's going to come to him. And he knows Torment's in the back left corner, so he's going to play it back towards Torment. Unfortunately, Torment moved a little bit too far out, so he has to go back around to get it. Torment does a pretty good job salvaging this, though. He says, okay, well, I know where Squishy is. I'm just going to play it back off the wall to him. But unfortunately, Squishy now went a little bit too far back to net. But these were two pretty smart passing plays to create space for their teammate. And like I said, they're both very good at creating space. And that's an example of that. Even though it didn't work out, just the thought there is a good one, and it's a smart, intelligent way of creating space for your team. Now here, so when I saw this, it didn't result in a goal because C9 wasn't ready for it, but this is not something that should be happening. The ball shouldn't be rolling in front of the net. And I don't really like the way Rizzo's rotating here. People oftentimes talk about rotating wide, and it's not a hard and fast rule. Obviously, there's a lot of different nuances, but here I think is one situation. So if you don't know what I mean by rotating wide, so Rizzo here, he chooses to just drive at the ball, but if he had come around to net like this, behind Crow, then Crow doesn't have to worry about not knowing what's going on. So like Crow right here in net, he says, okay, I don't know if I should be going for this ball. Rizzo's pretty close. He ends up going for it and slightly misreads the bounce, which obviously does partially explain the play. But if Rizzo had rotated all the way back around, Kronovi would know that it's his ball, and he wouldn't have had to make any sort of a quick decision. I mean, if we look at it from his perspective here, so Rizzo's coming back. He doesn't know really if Rizzo's going to go for this. He probably called Rizzo off and went for it, but there would be a lot less ambiguity. And if Rizzo rotated back post, after Kronovi misreads it, he would be there to clean it up. But since they were in the same spot, they're not able to compensate for any mistakes. Fortunately for them, Cloud9's not ready for it, as I don't think they should have been. That's not going to happen very often, but that's still something that shouldn't really be happening. And here, we're going to see another goal coming in from Cloud9. This one's a bit of a mistake, and wait, actually, sorry, I think I'm looking through. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So it's well played by Torment here, recognizing that Rizzo's out of boost, playing it up off the backboard and able to follow it. If we look at it from Rizzo's point of view, there's not a whole lot he could have done because he actually had 0 boost. I don't know if he didn't call this, though. I think if we look at this from JNAP's point of view now, we'll see he goes up for a redirect. So he plays the ball in, he's waiting for a redirect, it doesn't come, he starts rotating back. Now Kronovi's about to hit the ball. He sees that Rizzo is going to net, so he feels that he's safe trying to play Kronovi's hit. However, Rizzo gets his boost stolen by Gimmick. So after JNAPS turns back for the redirect and it doesn't come to him, he's no longer in the play. Crow's not in the play, only Rizzo's back with no boost. So I don't know if this is a miscommunication. I don't know if Rizzo called that he had no boost. I don't think JNAPS should have gone for the redirect knowing that Rizzo had no boost, but it's also possible he just didn't know. But I'd say that's what led to that goal. It was well played by Torment, and Torment ends up scoring all 4 of the goals Cloud9 scores in this series or in this game. So very well played game by him. This one was more of squishy than Torment. Torment does a great job being positioned for it, but this demo kind of creates havoc. So look at how G2 is set up here. They have Rizzo taking the ball out. Kronovi probably rotating in a little quick, but he's ready to make some sort of infield challenge, and JNAPS is set up at back post. Rizzo gets demoed, so this kind of messes up what G2's planning. They have to decide here, is JNAPS going to move out and challenge, and Crow rotates back, or is Crow going to challenge? Crow quickly goes for the challenge, but he's at kind of an awkward angle. So Squishy's able to play this around him, and you'll notice Squishy does a very smart flip here. So he flips diagonally, which allows him to immediately land on the wall. And he can now follow the ball. JNAP's pushed up a little bit, wasn't expecting this fully, and Torment's able to just put it in. So that play was a product of 2 things. First, a strong demo play, kind of messing up G2's rotation, and then second, a strong mechanical play by Squishy, allowing him to get another touch and play it out into mid for Torment. And Torment, good job reading that that's what's going to happen. So now, G2 down 3-0. Torment going to get a dunk here. Not a whole lot to say about that. I mean, I'll show it one more time. Basically, Rizzo with a whiff, and then Torment just dunks Kronovi. Not a great 50 by Kronovi, but Torment had better momentum. He was going to win that every time. Wasn't going to score every time. Probably preventable, but yeah, mostly Rizzo whiffing kind of put them in a bad place. And now G2 being down even 4-0, they got their work cut out for them. They're actually going to have a lot of pressure through the rest of this game. Somehow none of it goes in, but probably not going to matter, because even if they score one, they still need 3 more. C9 plays very passive through the remainder. I do want to highlight one more thing in this game. Actually, 2 more things. But so JNap's here. This is a very smart play by G2. First of all, JNap's reading the touch here and playing it back out to mid. Very quick reactions there. But this is really... He goes for the read, not having that much boost, and he's somehow still able to get a perfect, delicate pass out to mid. That's just a gorgeous pass. 2 pre-jumpers from C9 are able to keep this barely out of the net somehow. And then kind of an awkward turn by Crow, and then a bump between Crow and JNaps means that, amazingly, G2 is not able to score there. Very good passing play. Doesn't quite go in. Now JNaps again has a bit of an opening, hits it right off the post. So it's kind of an anomaly that G2 doesn't even have a single goal, but even if they did score off of that possession, it would still be 4-1. Unlikely they'd win. Again, they have a pretty good chance. This isn't really going to stop. But yeah, continuous pressure. This is a good back pass from Squishy here to create space for Torment. That's the kind of play, those ceiling reads, people are often trying to, like, compensate for them perfectly, and then, you know, they slightly misread it, they don't get a great hit, but Squishy reads it well, and on top of that has the presence of mind to make a back pass. So, again, controlling space in a way you don't often see, and very intelligent by them. And now, 4-0, 45 seconds. There's really not too much to say about this, because G2 just needs to play hyper-aggressive, hope for a miracle. Even they, at this point, 30 seconds, 4 goals, a team of C9's caliber is never going to throw this away, so they might try and get 1 goal to keep momentum, or get some momentum for themselves. They never really had momentum. But they're not really trying to win this game anymore. Normally, you may feel a little discouraged going down 4-0, but I think with the way that G2 somehow didn't manage to score some of these goals, they just hit the post over and over, the crossbar. I don't think they're too beat up over the fact they didn't score, because with the kind of opportunities they're forming, they're going to be scoring those 9 times out of 10. What they're really worried about, as we see them keep it up for a while here at 0 seconds, what they're really worried about is preventing the goals on them, not really creating opportunities as much, because they did create plenty. So, pretty convincing game by Cloud9. But G2 did have some chances. So if G2 is able to keep some of those goals from Cloud9 out, they stand a pretty good chance going forward in the series. And as I said at the beginning, this series is quite back and forth. It really is a slugfest, and let's see that play out. Excuse me. I muted my mic there. Yeah, so I kind of made the mistake of not getting a glass of water to drink from, and my throat's a little dry, so I muted my mic to clear it and did not unmute it, so sorry about that. What I was saying here is that Crow's playstyle, this is a good example of how Crow's playstyle is a bit of a double-edged sword, as I mentioned at the beginning. So he gets a kind of accidental second touch, he's out of boost, he can't get a very strong hit back here, and Gimmick does not expect him to turn for the ball. But Crow knows that Gimmick does not expect him to turn for the ball, so he makes the back pass. Since he can't make a strong hit though, it doesn't create a lot of space, and so JNaps is kind of put in no man's land and doesn't know what to do. He does end up going for the challenge, but it creates an awkward pinch, and then it goes over Rizzo. Obviously that's not usually going to get them scored on, and it's kind of a fluke, but Crow's playstyle there creating a bit of an awkward situation, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes it's a bad thing, and it kind of turned against them there as it went slightly against plan. And that's going to happen sometimes. Which is why I even bring it up in the first place, because I do think Crow still has a pretty different playstyle from a lot of players, and it does create those weird situations sometimes. Now here, this looks like a pretty blatant mistake from JNaps off of a missettle, and it seems like, well, he probably shouldn't be going for this if he's going to have such a high risk of just handing possession back, but it's not really as dangerous as it seems, because he tries to settle it, which is a good play. He hits it a little harder than he wants, but as he follows it, he's close enough to the ball that Squishy's forced to hit it around him, similar to what we saw with Torment in Game 1. So, when he hits it there, he's able to force Squishy to just launch it up off the backboard, and it funnels the play right to Kronovi. So G2 really in no danger, even though it looks like JNaps sort of gave possession back. It really, it wasn't as dangerous of a play as it looked like. Now here, we're going to see, this is a pretty good infield pass by Squishy, and he keeps it pretty ambiguous. So, right here, he still has the option to shoot or pass. Even as it comes to the bounce, he's right in the position where he could have shot or passed it. So JNaps doesn't really know what to do. He doesn't know exactly what Squishy's going to do. He can't just stop everything. So he has to play it kind of slow and try and make a read, and he does a good job of that. He comes in, waits for the touch. He's close enough that if Squishy tries to shoot, he can get up fast enough, and he can also contest the pass. Obviously, he didn't win to the pass, but being able to make a contest is what's important, because then they can't, the other team, Cloud9, cannot just take their time on the play. So good anticipation by JNaps, good slow play by him there. JNaps, very, very solid all-around player, very smart player. So here, I want to highlight what Rizzo does here. He's going to take it up off the ceiling, and he's going to get one more touch. Now, this is kind of an inherently hard to read play, right? Because it's not too clear exactly how hard Rizzo's going to be able to hit the ball, where exactly it's going to go. So who does this confusion benefit? Well, first let's look at it from JNaps' position. JNaps doesn't care how hard Rizzo hits it. He's already driving that direction. So JNaps is ready to deal with it pretty much without skipping a beat. Now let's see how the defender, Squishy, deals with it. Squishy, unlike JNaps, is facing the opposite direction, so he has to kind of predict where Rizzo's going to hit it and turn his car that way. So he has to make a little bit of a turn and get kind of a bad launch. And this is why JNaps is able to win, because JNaps is able to go up for the ball without missing a beat, Squishy's a little bit out of position, and then Rizzo does a good job following the play to get the next touch, and it results in a goal. So that's sort of an example of how certain hits can benefit the offense or defense more just because of how they're positioned. And this is just a perfect shot by JNaps. Look, he hits it to the far side of the goal, bar down. Incredibly tough save by Torment. He doesn't have that much boost. Not a whole lot he can do there. And you can't really stop JNAPs, or stop... C9 cannot afford to clamp down on JNAPs there. You kind of have to give them passing plays that far in the backfield. It's just not worth it to contest, and if he's going to be making shots like that every time, there's not a whole lot you can do. So now G2 in the lead, 2-1. And C9 now has to make something happen, despite getting a goal pretty early. And their only goal was off kind of a fortunate pinch, so they haven't created as much this time. Okay, here, so Torment, he goes for the read, in case they don't make the correct backboard read. I think, yeah, Crow and net. And then he has to make the decision, does he interfere with this ball, or does he just rotate and let his teammate follow? And what he does is very smart here. So, he basically leaves his options open as long as possible. Because Rizzo here, Rizzo's either going to try and take it quickly, in which case he should let his teammate follow, or Rizzo's going to slowly settle the ball. Because his teammate's pretty far back. I think it's actually, yeah, Squishy coming in from the side. So if Rizzo just absolutely slams the ball, it's Squishy's responsibility. Torment can't catch up to it. But if Rizzo settles it, Torment's the only one in position to make a challenge. So all the way up until he makes this wave dash here, this wave dash is still useful in the rotation. It's going backwards. But as he makes the wave dash, he sees that Rizzo settles the ball, so he comes in and challenges, and then he's able to make a back pass to his teammate, keeping possession. And this is the kind of... leaving your options open as long as possible is generally good. And Torment does a beautiful job of that there. And this too is pretty interesting. Again, like I said at the start, for anyone who wasn't here at the start, I felt that this game had less of a cohesive story as the other series I've covered, where it's like, oh yeah, this team kept doing this right or kept doing this wrong. Is kind of the team's doing a lot of different stuff that was good. And so I kind of want to highlight a lot of the nuances of the game here and what they're doing that is a little bit different from what you might normally see. But not hugely, just especially this one. This is a very, very nuanced play. But so here, Torment knows the Gimmick's in the backfield, and the number one feeling, or the first instinct, I think... oh my god, I didn't switch. Okay. Wasn't really important. So the number one instinct I think most players would have here is to pass it right to Gimmick. Just hit it right to him. But that doesn't give Gimmick forward momentum. So instead of playing it to his teammate, Torment plays it to space, where his teammate is going to win to the ball. He plays it actually a little bit forward, and there's still no one there on G2 to contest. And now Gimmick's able to come in with forward momentum, instead of just slowly settling the ball and allowing Rizzo to challenge. So, again, a very subtle thing he does there, but it does make a pretty big difference, and those things add up. So, see some more back and forth here. There are stretches in this game where it kind of goes back and forth. The teams just do a good job reading the passes and don't really let anything happen. Now I do think, right here, I think this needs to be a pass from Squishy. Torment's kind of out of position and out of boost, but everyone on G2, they're really not in position to cover the left side of the field. So Squishy kind of just hits it at Crow. Granted, Torment wouldn't have had too much to do with it, but he could have passed it back mid. And this is an example, while these teams are very good at controlling space, there's still a lot of work to be done in that regard by every team. Playing it to space rather than just trying to play it into the right, where your teammate immediately gets the ball. So if you play it into space with Torment, just let Torment kind of decide what to do, then maybe Torment can make a back pass and, actually set up a play, but they're not able to do much. And then right here, this was really bizarre to me. So Gimmick makes actually a very, very nice pass here. He gets a very delicate touch down, and G2's not ready for it. But if you look at this from Torment's view, he has a pretty good shot here. And I think this should definitely be Torment's ball. But for some reason, Squishy just cuts across the field and takes it. And I feel that's a real wasted opportunity. I'm not sure why Squishy felt that was his ball. And I feel that they really missed a great chance to get themselves back into the game with that one. I don't know if it's just a lack of trust or what. Here throughout the game, C9, they have most of the pressure for the rest of the game. And they create some scoring chances. But like here, Squishy could have scored there, but there were 2 players ready to defend shots. So it would have required a pretty perfect shot. And so C9 does create some chances here with the pressure they create, but none of them are super promising. Like that, if Squishy had an insane redirect there, he might have scored. And if Squishy has an insane shot here, he could score. But none of their shots are like creating a ton of space for each other and giving themselves easy goals. They're not baiting out defenders, really. They're just putting themselves in positions where if they are perfect and they have incredible shots, they can score. And sometimes you feel like you need to pull the trigger on them, but they're not able to create these perfect shots, so they're not able to equalize the game. And now it's 1-1 in the series. So, pretty close game. And even though the first game was a 4-0, I feel it was reasonably back and forth pressure-wise. C9 definitely created more good chances until the very end of the game. But I don't think it was as one-sided as a 4-0 scoreline would indicate. So the series so far has been a little back and forth. That's not going to stop as we get into Game 3. So check it out here. Actually, so pretty early here. Sorry, let me scroll down in my notepad. Pretty early here, I want to show how rotations have changed a little bit over time to accommodate passing plays. So, well, back in especially Season 1, Season 2, a little bit of Season 3, infield passes started becoming a thing around that time, but they weren't as prevalent as now, and they were only made when it was very obvious, like, I'm mid, there's no one covering mid, let me pass it there. And that was usually defendable from net. And so players would kind of stack towards the defensive end and really cover the backboard, because the backboard is where the most passes came. But nowadays, players are a lot more innovative with their passes, and rotations have kind of changed a little bit to accommodate that. So let's look here. Squishy's going to come back across the field. And back in Season 2, generally the right play here would be for him to rotate back to net. Let me illustrate that real quick. So the general rotation, you'd have one player on the backboard hitting the ball like Gimmick's doing here. So here we see Gimmick would follow the play. Torment would push out behind him, and then Squishy would come back in from net. Or to net and take Torment's spot. But now it's a little bit different. Torment's not quite ready to defend an infield pass. So if a pass comes across, like this, across the field, now, instead of Torment being the one who's tasked to come out and defend it, it's now Squishy who rotates in to defend this pass. And we're going to see that here as... Let me go back to Squishy's view. He's actually going to play it a little bit differently. He's going to go for the demo. Instead of playing the pass, he's going to try and eliminate the threat of a passing play by going for a demo. It's not quite going to work out, but it does force pressure on JNAPs, and so it kind of disrupts the passing play. And I think without Squishy there, JNAPs is probably scoring that. So, I mean, a lot of teams are doing this now. This is nothing special that C9's doing, but I thought it was a pretty clear illustration of how the meta's been changing a little bit in terms of defensive rotations. And speaking of meta changing, I feel that this play from Gimmick is a little bit outdated. He goes up for the redirect, and I think the correct play here nowadays is to drop this back to Torment. Because what he does, back in the day, back in Season 2, this redirect off the backboard, teams are not going to be ready for it. One person's probably challenging this redirect. They're like, okay, they hit it towards me, I need to go up for it. Gimmick would beat them, it would go off the backboard, the last guy would be sitting in net, and it would get shot down and in. But nowadays, they don't even challenge Gimmick. It's not threatening for him to play it off the backboard. And it's very easily defended. Now, if instead, imagine here Gimmick goes up and drops this ball down. Both Kronovi and Rizzo are rotating back to net because they know Gimmick's throwing it off the backboard. If Gimmick had surprised them with the drop, there's all this space here. JNaps is forced to kind of make a panic hit. May not even be in position to do it because he's trying to rotate back. So that's the sort of play. I think that's how redirects need to change. More dropping. And I mean, teams do more dropping, but that's a situation where it really should have been a drop, I think. Now here, we see JNaps go for an air dribble solo play. Now, I don't think this was the best play. I think right here, he had a lot of space. He should have tried to pass it to Crow. Gimmick's coming across field, Torment's going back. JNaps should have tried to pass this to Crow. But I also want to highlight Crow's versatility here. So, this may look weird. I don't know if Crow was on ball cam here. There's currently a glitch in the replays where the ball cam, when you're on player view, doesn't show up properly. So for this broadcast, I'm just forcing ball cam because I think it's the best alternative. I actually went to someone's player view once, and it was looking in their rear view camera for like 10 seconds. I'm pretty sure the player was not just looking in their rear view, so there's some bug there. So it's on ball cam. So even if it looks like they're on ball cam, don't take that for granted. He may be on free cam here. But we see Crow's waiting for a pass. JNaps doesn't give him the pass. So a lot of players here would just rotate back. Okay, I'm not a part of the play anymore. But Crow says, well, if I'm not getting the pass, may as well go for a demo. Doesn't quite get it. But if he did, that would have been a much more dangerous play. And it's a smart way by Crow to stay involved. So I mentioned just a few seconds ago that playing it off the backboard, not too great anymore. Here we're actually going to see both teams do that. JNaps plays it off the backboard. Now Cian's going to get a counterattack, but then instead of dropping it, they too play it off the backboard. Granted, this is a pretty tough read for Rizzo, but players are good at this now. Rizzo gets the read. And now finally, Crow slows it down instead of just trying to create another backboard play. And it just doesn't work too much anymore. I mean, there's still a time and place for it when you see that they're not well defended on the backboard, but being able to create space by dropping the redirect is a lot more powerful. So this is something here. This is something I struggle with a lot, and it's a play that I still am sort of unsure about how I feel about it in general. But it's this rotating in the corner and trying to redirect your teammates clear. And I'm generally not a huge fan of this. So Crow comes back here, and he's trying to play JNaps as clear, maybe get some weird redirect, but it's only possible if it rolls along the corner. If it comes out, but not too far out, there's not a whole lot you can do with it, and that's exactly what happens. So Crow's pretty much just out of the play for no reason here, not able to do anything. I would have liked to see him rotate back, because now C9's able to start a play because Crow's not in position, and Gimmick really should have scored that. He just misread it off the backboard. G9 or G2, G9, G2 had I feel they gave up a chance that really didn't need to be given up because Crow is trying to get a little bit of a better hit. I feel it's your teammate's responsibility to use the corner properly there instead of using you, because it's just a low percentage play in my opinion. And here Rizzo does a good job settling the ball. I'm not 100% sure that this flick was intentional, as I think it was a bit hasty. He had a little bit more space than he took. He kind of just flicks it immediately. But he gets that weird second touch. If he's actually been practicing that and he did it on purpose, then props to him. Not sure if it was intentional. But a good job recognizing he had space. He probably could have taken his time a little more, but it worked out. And this off kickoff, sometimes rotations break down off kickoff, and Squishy made a challenge that's normally going to be fine. Wasn't fine off a kickoff. We've seen this even in the last episode of the Rocket League Replays Workshop, I think. And a lot of times, kickoffs just throw teams off like that. This is pretty interesting here. We see a series of back passes. This is a very smart back pass by Crow. He goes up for the ball so that C9 can't, and then he just touches it right back to JNaps. Unfortunately, JNaps doesn't read it properly, but instead of giving up on it, he compensates. He sees Rizzo's back there and makes a back pass of his own. And so, G2 is able to keep possession. Obviously not what they wanted to happen there, but good compensation on the fly. And this, again, is an example of Crow's cutting rotations, how it can sometimes make it weird for his team. So he actually challenges this here because, again, Squishy's not expecting it, and Squishy has some space over Rizzo. So Crow's thinking here, okay, well, if Rizzo doesn't challenge and I challenge, then it can make a good play, but Rizzo's not really ready for this, and it kind of puts him in no man's land, and then it goes over him because of the challenge. So, is the play from Crow necessarily bad? No. But is it confusing for his teammates? Yes. And even though generally they work very well around Crow playing like this, again, things don't always go according to plan, and that's when these plays by Crow may sometimes lead things to going astray. And like I said earlier, I think Crow is a very smart player, and I think all these things he does with intention. A lot of players do weird rotation cuts because they're just ball chasing, and Crow is not like that at all. Everything's done very much calculated, very much with intention, but it is different, and that's why I'm highlighting it, because it creates situations that you wouldn't see otherwise. This is an example of how one mechanical mistake can go from a near goal for one side to a near goal for another. So Torment very slightly misreads this ceiling bounce and side flips as a result. Now, imagine he didn't side flip. Gimmick here is moving upfield, ready for Torment's clear, and he has all the space in the world. This is a very good play by Cloud9. They create space. Gimmick gets into the space. Torment's ready to hit it to the space. But since Torment makes the mistake, Gimmick's not ready to rotate back. And it's very fortunate for them that G2 doesn't score this. Rizzo just had to go up for it quickly because he didn't know Torment would side flip, so he doesn't put it on net. But just one little mechanical mistake there, misread, completely swings the play from a very good chance for C9 to a very good chance from G2. This is another very good example of how you want to play it into space versus playing it to your teammates. Look at it from Gimmick's point of view. He knows Squishy is on the right side of the field, but he also sees Rizzo working up ready to intercept it. If he made the most basic passing play here, like if Gimmick were to just say, alright, what is going on with my... Okay, so yeah, if Gimmick just passed it across to right around here, which is a normal passing play, you want it to bounce right around here so Squishy can maximize his power on the ball coming forward. But Rizzo's ready for that. Rizzo's right over here. He would intercept that. So instead, whoops, Gimmick does something better. He comes to the ball and he hits it far, all the way over here. Now this isn't as good for Squishy. He can't settle the ball as well. He can't make as good of a play on it. But neither can Rizzo. It's over Rizzo, but it's not over Squishy. So rather than making the direct pass, C9 played it into the area of the field. They play it into the area of the field where their teammate will get there first. It's not, okay, I'm hitting it right to my teammate because he'll get there first, because Rizzo can then contest it. You know, Squishy might have got there first, but Rizzo would have been able to dunk him. But since he played it far, Squishy gets there first, because Rizzo can't get there at all. This is a very good passing play here, and again, a little bit of a misread by Torment kills it. Very good drop by Squishy. If it was a little farther out, then that's a goal. And if Torment had been able to keep pressure, they would have some good chances there, but unfortunately another ceiling misread cost them that one. They still have pressure, but they had a very good scoring chance there. Oh, I'll get used to this eventually. Sorry, guys. So yeah, so Squishy drops it there. A little bit too close. So, and then, yeah, the misread by Torment. So again, C9 very close to a goal, and they really needed that. 50 seconds left. They had to score right around there, and yeah, sometimes you come close, but it's not enough. Good bump by there, by Squishy on the J-Naps, and it created a lot of space for them here. And C9 actually will be able to score a goal, but it's not going to come soon enough. They're not able to score another. It is a very good 50-50 by Torment here, though. Torment's very good at challenging. So not only does he 50 Crow, he sees Crow doesn't really have a play on the ball. He knows he's getting a 50. So now it's about how can he 50 it as well as possible. His team is out in mid, so he just needs to get it to pinch right as far as possible. And for that to happen, he needs to hit the ball on the left side so it goes out there. And he does exactly that. It goes right to Squishy. And Squishy puts an absolute banger of a shot top corner. This is a phenomenal shot. Showing his mechanical prowess. Rizzo had most of the net covered. That was like the only shot Rizzo couldn't have saved. So yeah, C9 needs to try and make something happen. They try a little hard to. Now it's Gimmick's turn to slightly misread the ceiling. G2 scores. And that'll do it. The nail in the coffin. Now, they actually do score another goal. But, as you can see here, Gimmick not really playing. The game's over. Not much of a real goal. But, it's 4-1. So again, the scoreline not very representative of the game. It was a very close game. I mean, okay, it was a 2-goal game for most of the game. Cloud9 did bring it back to within 1 with 20 seconds left. But Cloud9 had some opportunities that I think they either made a subtle incorrect decision or they made a mechanical mistake and lost out on them. I highlighted most of those. And so now G2's up 2-1 in the series after dropping the first game 4-0. So a good job getting back into the series by them. And now it's Cloud9's turn after rally. So let's take a look. Now, early on in the game, this is where the series really started getting blow for blow. This game isn't particularly close score-wise, but like especially this first minute, neither team can get anything going. They're all over each other. They're pressed apart on each other, not giving each other any space. And, well, it looks like they have some sort of reasonable opportunities. Nothing really too much. They're really just not missing a beat on contests early on in this game. Not until the first goal is scored, at least. And the first goal actually, here, it's going to look like a pretty big mistake, but it's a lot deeper than I think most people realize. So here we're going to see, first part, very good back pass off the ceiling by Gimmick. He goes up for it, hits it back into space. Torment has space. And here's where the mind games come in. Torment has a ton of space here, and he knows he has a ton of space. And Crow knows he has a ton of space. So as this is going to the ground, Crow is fully expecting Torment to settle it and try and take a one-on-one play. And Torment, with beautiful recognition, realizes that's what Crow's thinking. Crow starts turning towards him. Torment looks like he's settling the ball and just suddenly gets a power shot out of nowhere. And it completely fools Crow and just goes right into the net. At first glance, if you're just looking at the rotations here, it'll be like, oh, what? Why did Crow push up so far? But it was really a pretty deep mind game here. Crow wants to challenge Torment as soon as possible, thinks he has a read on it, and Torment proves him wrong. And there's a lot of these mind games that I'm sure I don't even catch looking at the replay. There's so much going into all of it that you're not really even going to notice unless you look at player view. And even then, without a pretty deep understanding of the game, you're not going to notice. But there is another one right here that I wanted to point out. Yeah. So I did that a little too early. Let's just do it 50%. So we see the ball go up here. And it's Torment versus JNaps. So I want to think, what is each player thinking here? If we look at Torment's point of view, he has no boost. So, fair enough. What he's trying to do, he can't actually get to this ball in time with no boost. So he's going to drive towards it to try and discourage JNaps from going for the ball. Because he might think Torment's closer and is able to get it. Now what's JNaps doing? He thinks Torment's challenging the ball. He wants Torment to not challenge the ball. So he boosts towards it really fast as if he's trying to hit it, and then peels away from the ball to create space. And since Torment's out of boost, this is a complete bluff. Torment's not actually going for the ball. His plan here is to drive towards the ball and then get the boost. So because JNaps is trying to get Torment to not go for the ball, he boosts towards it, creates space. Torment doesn't actually hit the ball. And now instead of a place where JNaps has to quickly go for the ball and boom it, now JNaps has space on the wall, and he's going to be the first one to the ball. So he comes in for the hit, not quite able to score it, but it creates a pretty good chance, and off of a mind game. And again, that's the kind of thing that I think might not really be clear just watching the game one time, not looking closely at the plays. So I think it's an interesting thing to highlight. So Torment here, trailing as the third man. This is very... I mentioned that I was going to be talking quite a bit about Torment in the third man role at the start of the game, and I haven't talked too much about that yet. And that's because most of what I had to say came in Game 4 and 5. So here, Torment as the third man is trailing pretty close, and this is a hard decision to make. Let's take a look at how the play develops. Both his teammates are kind of going up, and he pushes up pretty far, which it was very safe. There was no one who could have beat him, and he recognized that, but it's not an easy thing to recognize, first of all. And now, he's going to go in for the ball, but JNaps is going to interfere. And now Torment's the last man back. So he has to respond very well to this interference. And he does so. He immediately turns around and puts a pass right back out to Squishy. This is very quick thinking and a very good job in the third man role. And then... I should have stayed on Torment's view, actually. So, as that play develops, both of his teammates end up going pretty far for the ball and get beat. So now Torment's in a 1v2. And as a third man, it's very tempting to try and stall the play as long as possible. Especially in a 1v1. You just, you kind of shadow him. You kind of go blow for blow with him. Make sure he can't get a shot off. And make him play it slowly. And then your teammate can come in and scoop it up once they're able to rotate back. But here... Torment's in a 1v2. He doesn't have the benefit of making JNaps wait because JNaps can pass it to Rizzo. So Torment has to make a very smart commitment, and he pushes up at exactly the right time to defend the pass and gets a piece of it. And while it's still dangerous for C9, they're able to clear it out. And that's phenomenal third man play by Torment. That's not an easy thing to do. Defending 1v2s are very difficult, especially when the other team plays it well. And G2 did play it pretty well. They made a good passing play. But Torment played it even better. Now here, this is a very coordinated play by Cloud9. Gimmick goes for the ball. Torment knows Gimmick is going to be going for a demo, so he plays it high off the backboard. Gimmick gets the demo, and Squishy ever so slightly hits the crossbar because he has to get there before Rizzo. And then unfortunately for them, Torment makes a bit of a bad contest, and then Crow misses this open net. And this is where I feel the game starts to get a little bit more chaotic. We're actually going to see some more pretty decent chances by G2 that just don't convert in this game. So this right here, this is a combination of perfect ball placement by Squishy and indecision by Rizzo. So first, let's look at Rizzo's point of view. He needs to challenge right now. And that's a very quick decision he has to make, because now it's too late. He can't turn around for it. He had a very small window of opportunity to decide to make that challenge, and so he's not able to get to the ball. But most of the places Squishy hit this ball wouldn't have made it hard for him. If Squishy bangs it off the backboard, Rizzo defends that easily. If Squishy hits it straight up, JNaps can challenge, and Rizzo will be in net. But Squishy hits it at exactly the right part in the ceiling where he can quickly follow it, and Rizzo can't get the contest. So a bit of a mistake by Rizzo, but also very well played by Squishy. Yeah, this is game 4 right now. Should probably get some sort of thing in the overlay indicating, some sort of overlay indicating the game number. I'll look into a good non-intrusive way to do that. Now this is something I actually want to highlight, because when I first saw this hit by Kronovi, it looked perfectly fine to me. He had space, he hit the ball. But then it's like, why does Gimmick have this much space on the side of the field? And I think this hit by Crow is actually a little hasty. Now he wins to the ball, so a lot of times you think, okay, I'm winning to the ball, I should go for it. But look at his teammates here. Crow's all the way on the left side of the field. His teammates are both near the opponent's net, and he knows that. If you look at his point of view, he knows where his teammates are. So JNaps is going to be going for this boost, and Rizzo's going to be going back for that boost, which leaves a huge chunk of the field open. So even though Kronovi is able to win to this ball, it doesn't matter. JNaps and Rizzo were so far away that this side of the field is still wide open. So Torment's able to pass it to Gimmick. If he had played it a little bit farther away from the net, like over to the right side, it probably would have resulted in a goal, and it almost did still. So even though that challenge looked decent by Kronovi, I think it was hasty. So here again, this is a very good chance from G2. Rizzo with a very good win over Torment. Very, very fast play. And Kronovi just barely can't get up in time to drop it in. And then Gimmick's able to play it away from JNaps ever so slightly. That's G2 very easily could have scored there. And that's the second open net that they've had a pretty good play on and weren't able to score. So change those two plays and suddenly this game's tied. So they need to make something happen here. They have a lot of pressure. I mean, for these last 20-30 seconds, they've had a lot of pressure, but they made sure Cloud9 couldn't get any easy clears, but Cloud9 didn't make major mistakes. So even though they were hitting it into awkward positions, Cloud9 weren't breaking, and they weren't creating too many opportunities of their own. This is one more thing I want to highlight about Torment in the third man role here. He's rotating back. He does have a teammate behind him now. So how does he play this? Kronovi's coming in. And this is something I briefly talked about last week with Gale Force, is a lot of people, when they challenge, they feel the need, okay, if I'm not winning to the challenge, or not even that, because most players know that even if they're not winning the challenge, it can be good to force a hit. But a lot of times, people feel like they need to cover as much as they possibly can on the challenge. And Torment does not feel that pressure here. Let's take a look very slowly here. Look at Torment's positioning. Crow cannot cut this to the inside. Torment makes sure of that. So Kronovi has to cut it to the outside. Now Torment could dive at this ball and probably get a piece of it. But then it's just going up the wall. And Squishy's still pretty far away. If Torment slides this up the wall, who's winning to this ball? It's Rizzo. Rizzo's going to clean this up. So Torment realizes, okay, there's no point of me trying to get some weird 50 here. So instead of challenging, Kronovi hit it to the outside. Torment now says, okay, my job's done. Lets it go. Drives away. And now Kronovi doesn't have too much to do. Playing it up the corner is tough. Squishy's ready to challenge. He does the best he can, which is he tries to cut it infield, but that's tough. Doesn't have a lot going there. And then off of a double commit now, Torment's able to play this forward, and it leads to a goal off of a nice bump from Squishy. And this is a great transition play. Squishy makes the challenge, immediately comes in for the bump on Rizzo, gets him there, and now, because of a double commit from G2, this is an easy goal for Torment. So, yeah, again, I say this every time when the game is like this, 3-0. G2 knows they're losing this game. They can try and put something together right now, but if they don't score immediately, they have no chance, and they're pretty much hopeless at this point. Teams know how to play defensively and risk-averse. So they know they're going to Game 5, and G2 can be confident because they're very good in Game 5s. I mean, this gets pointed out all the time. People always talk about Rizzo's insane win percentage in Game 5s. Yeah, so G2 have one of the best Game 5 records. They know that. C9 knows that. They're a very clutch team. They pulled out a Game 5 against Evil Geniuses week 2, I think. So, you know, Cloud9 probably didn't want to go to Game 5 with them, but they're still very confident. They came off of a pretty convincing victory in Game 4. And this game has been a slugfest, like I said at the beginning. Very back and forth. And now, it all comes down to one game. Scroll down to my notepad. Sorry for losing game sound. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about, earlier I mentioned that Kronovi kind of lurked on his own wall in the corner, and it gave the other team space without him really having too much of a play on it. And this is pretty similar here. It's a little bit different, but Rizzo's going after the ball, and Kronovi, without boost, decides that he wants to try and redirect this on the corner. And I just don't feel this is a worthwhile use of his time here. Because even if Rizzo hits it to him, all he can really do is hit it off as if he's the wall. He's not going to hit it too much differently than the wall. And so I think it should be Rizzo's responsibility here to hit it in the right part of the corner to be safe for them. And Crow can either, move up here or rotate back. In this case, with no boost, I would have much preferred if he picked up a couple pads so he could get back into play. And almost immediately, it almost pays off for C9, but JNAPS is narrowly back in time. And I feel if Crow had picked up some pads, they wouldn't have really had anything at all there. So another pretty good chance from C9 there. Pretty early in the game, they've had most of it. This is a smart play by Gimmick here that I want to highlight. So he plays it slowly to get around one. He makes a nice cut. And now he knows Crow's right there, but he doesn't even challenge Crow. He doesn't even contest him. Why? Because Crow's hit goes right to Torment. Crow's hit's not dangerous at all, and it's probably even better for C9 than if he 50'd Crow. So Gimmick says, I don't care if Crow hits it. I'm just going to let him do it. If he doesn't hit it, great. I still have possession and I can make a play on the ball. If he does hit it, it's right to Torment. and they're able to start a play because of that. Very smart ball control there. Now here, this is going to be the first goal conceded in Game 5. And I feel it was the right play by JNaps. Oh, that's bright. The right play by JNaps here, I do think, is what he does, which is throws it to the corner. But I think he hits it slightly how he doesn't, or slightly differently from how he wanted. It's a little bit too far out to the middle of the field. If it was more to the corner, then Rizzo has a contest on it. It's ever so slightly missed, and sometimes that's the difference. So that stings a little bit because I don't think they did anything horribly wrong in that play, but C9 just did a tremendous job capitalizing. And it was a good shot by Squishy too. But G2, they're not going to take that lying down. They create plays of their own. Bit of a missed touch by Rizzo there, but he did a good job. Good recognition to take his space, just or settle. And throughout this series, both teams have done a relatively good job taking their space, controlling space in general. Now this, if you saw one play, if you saw a highlight of one play from this series, I'm guessing it was this one. The demo from Rizzo. And this all starts with a gorgeous pass from Kronovi. He kind of gave away possession, but Torment gives it right back to him. And now Kronovi hits the perfect pass right down to Rizzo, allows him to settle it right where he is. Now Squishy should probably be recognizing that Rizzo's there. Squishy should not be so hasty to jump for this ball. Because he knows Rizzo's there the whole way through. He doesn't respect it. I mean, I guess he slightly misjudges the depth. And then Rizzo makes an incredibly heady play here. Look at that first touch. It's not exactly what he wanted. What are his options here? The ball's moving pretty fast. Let me show you the relative speeds. Let me put it in slow motion so you can get a better feel for that. So he touches the ball. It's going out pretty fast in front of him. He can't get a shot on net unless he slows the ball down and cuts around it to the left. So what he could do here, and I think a lot of players' instincts would tell them to do this. Where's my... So he could come around the ball like this, as the ball comes this way, and then slam it in the opposite post. But this would require quite a bit of time. He would have to move in very slowly to this ball, and he'd probably even have to slow down the ball before he came around it. And if he does that, Torment's right here to challenge it. Rizzo can't play this too slowly. If he does, Torment's going to have interference. He has to go quickly. And he recognizes that. And he makes the only play he could, which would really allow him to score here, because his teammates are out of the picture. He drops everything and goes in for the demo. I mean, and Gimmick recognizes this too. He tries to jump over, but Rizzo jumps for it and gets the demo. That's such a heady play. And maybe that's, Rizzo, like I said, has one of the best, I think the best record in Game 5s. Excuse me, sorry. There's a bug with the replay sound sometimes where it starts cutting out. It was happening there. I'm going to reset to that goal so that we actually have game sound. Okay. So yeah, Rizzo, very clutch in Game 5s. I mean, I know me in Game 5s, if I'm in a pressure situation and I get a 1v1, I'm like, can't mess this up. And then I just hit the ball away. Or not hit it away, but like, I try and dribble it. I don't know if he's challenging. I'm like, maybe he's challenging. I just flick it. But Rizzo, very cool, calm, collected, makes a very, very smart play. Ties the game up, puts them right back in the game. There is a bit of slop, like that miss from Kronovi. We can see the nerves start to get into play more and more as this game goes on. But it's just... That's part of what made this game so fun to watch. It's so close. Good infield pass by JNaps, but Rizzo a little bit hesitant. Doesn't want to make that mistake that costs them. Doesn't want to challenge. It's the third man when it's the wrong situation. He probably could have made a play there, but doesn't want to mess it up. And then another beautifully coordinated play. When I was watching this, I saw JNaps coming in for this ball, and I said, alright, this is an infield pass. Look at this space. Rizzo has all the space in the world in midfield. I'm like, JNaps is passing this. G2 is a very good passing team. JNaps is passing this. But one good characteristic of good players is that they're confident. They can smell the blood in the water. And I think that's what happened here. JNaps, he smelled blood in the water. He saw the way the ball is bouncing here. He said, I have a good shot here. Crow's ready to interfere on net. I'm just going to shoot. He was very confident in his shot. It shows in the way he took it. He just goes for it. Great placement. And Kronovi, great bump. Beautiful combination play here. Like I said earlier, there is a bit of a bug with the ball cam right now, so I have it on forced ball cam. I'm sure Kronovi is not actually on ball cam there, but great combination play by G2, and that, I mean, not a whole lot C9 could have done about that. There's a lot of goals in this series that, rather than just relying on mistakes from the other team, are very well put together plays. But then we started seeing a lot of this, like all these double commits, panicky touches. We're actually going to see a lot of this from G2, and this, a very untimely whiff by Kronovi. He was trying to get as hard of a touch as he could, and a very light, or a very, like, hit it right on the end of his nose, ends up missing, and it just goes in. And that's got to be rattling for a team, and I think it did rattle them a little bit, even though they're really veterans. They're very good in Game 5s, but I think it rattled them. We're going to see for the next 45 seconds to a minute, even throughout the rest of the game, there's going to be a lot of double commits, especially on defense coming out from G2. A lot of panic. Yeah, like here, we already see it starting. Double commit there. Now they're in an awkward position because they double committed. Now they're going to kind of send multiple people the ball again. It's going to come back over. They're going to double commit again. And because they keep double committing, they keep getting put in awkward positions. And that's actually something I want to talk about. A lot of times, it's like, wow, this team keeps double committing. You'd think they'd realize that they're doing it and just stop. But the reason double commits happen is because you're in awkward situations and you're not sure who's going for the ball. Normally, you're not double committing a lot. So you're not in the situations where you double commit. But when you make a double commit, then you're kind of, the whole team dynamic gets thrown off. And then because the team dynamic is thrown off, people aren't where they expect each other to be, and then they double commit again, and it just keeps compounding and compounding until they get out of their zone. And that's sort of what was happening here with G2. These double commits, they just built on each other. They never really got it out. And they get it out a couple times throughout the rest of regulation. But spoiler alert, it's going overtime. Now, here, a lot of the double commits are sort of excusable on the defensive end. This is not good. They both kind of cut in for the play. They both want to play the pass, but they either need to communicate better or have, I don't know. I mean, it's very panicky. It's tough to communicate well, and your chemistry sort of starts to get thrown off because you kept double committing, and they don't want to get scored on with 30 seconds left in Game 5, but that's a very bad double commit, and they even bump each other. They're very fortunate not to get scored on here. So now G2 has some space, but in that case, they didn't double commit. They zero committed when they should have had possession. I mean, they're clearly, the double commits definitely get in your head a little bit because it throws you off and sometimes makes you hesitant to go for it at all. But Game 5 overtime, even though G2's been a little weird, they are still a very clutch team. And this overtime is... I mean, fans of this game, fans of either team watching this live had to just be going crazy during this overtime. There's so many weird misses, opportunities for one team that they don't convert, opportunities for the other in transition, and it's not a particularly long overtime, but it's very back and forth, very chaotic. You can tell there's nerves coming into play. Sort of more of the same of what we saw at the end of regulation. Like, they're just overlapping each other. Before, they had been doing such a good job controlling space, and now they're just not... They're trying to force something a little too hard. Now, there's a good passing play, but unfortunately Gimmick was out of boost, so he couldn't follow Torment's pop. And this just... close call on both sides. Until finally, Pronovi gonna make a beautiful pass out to JNAPS. They'll take their space, and a miscommunication from Cloud9 is gonna do them in. From Gimmick's point of view, he sees Squishy coming back. He thinks Squishy's rotating around him. He realizes too late that Squishy's going for boost, and he can't get back in time. And credit where credit's due, this is a very good shot from JNAPS. That's a tough redirect to hit with that much power. He places it perfectly. And that's going to do it. Very tense, nerves coming in. Both teams had a lot of opportunities that they kind of just flubbed towards the end there. And then what was, honestly, the first 4 games, I think, were very, very well played. And then the 5th game, the nerves started coming in and both teams got a little sloppy. And as a result, weren't able to make the most of the chances they were given, even though they were given more chances. And that does it. G2 clutches it out in Game 5 again. I think a very good series, and I think that series was very representative of what these teams do well and what they don't do as well. And again, I do think I focused more on individual plays rather than a large thematic thing, but I think that's what really characterized this series, was there weren't as many overarching things. It was the story of a bunch of different plays coming together. So, yeah, that's going to do it for this series. I'll do a little bit of a Q&A for the series. Any questions you had about it. This one went pretty long. I knew it would, but it went pretty long. I don't want to make the Q&A as long as usual, so I'll probably just answer a couple, but yeah. Trying to remember what the questions I saw during the game were. I did see one about CLG and why they aren't doing well. I actually covered them in my first episode. You can catch that on YouTube, on my YouTube. And I talked a lot in that one about why CLG wasn't able to put things together despite being very mechanically sound players. Who's my favorite team to watch? That's a tough question. And I think if anything, it would be more matchups, because some teams are fun to watch against certain styles. And I mean, I love matchups like these, where both teams control the space well and hit it to each other and create a lot of chances. I talked a lot about G2's mistakes at the end, but I didn't talk about why C9 weren't able to capitalize. That is true. And I think it's largely what I was talking about on both sides, where they started getting a little panicky, and instead of playing it to space, they just tried to force it. So it's like, oh, they made a mistake. Let me just try and slam the ball. They're not going to be ready for it because they double committed. But they were just in the nick of time able to get back in time. Do I think EG can upset NRG? I mean, I think so. I think they have a decent chance. Do I think it's expected? No. What do I think they need to do to upset them? More of what they've been doing. They do a great job with creative passes, getting it to each other, especially Corrupted G, passing when people don't really expect it, and then the pops and demos. I talked about that a lot in my first one, and they do that better than anyone I've ever seen. Last ditch attack, he was met with last ditch defending. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say what happened there. Yeah, Flipside was very, very good this weekend. If they keep that up, they're contenders for sure. All right. Yeah, this has gone pretty long, so I don't want to make it too long. But thank you everyone for tuning in. There will be no show next week as I'll be in China, so shows should start or resume as normal after next week. But yeah, as always, feedback's appreciated. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you in my next show.